Imagine your neighbor's house is glowing at midnight during a blackout. Every light on, hot coffee brewing, a fan humming in the window, and he hasn't paid an electric bill in over 2 years. You'd think he won the lottery? He didn't. He learned something that most people will go their entire lives never knowing. And by the end of this video, you're going to know it too. This is the kind of information that doesn't show up in mainstream media. It doesn't trend on social media. It doesn't get sponsored by any energy company. Because the moment you understand this, you stop being a customer. And companies don't like losing customers. So stay right here with me, because what I'm about to share with you is one of the most practical, real, and honestly shocking things I've ever come across in years of digging through old patents, government archives, and conversations with people who live completely off the grid. And if you want more of this kind of content, the real, buried stuff, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell. This channel exists for exactly this reason. Now let's get into it. Here's the core problem with how most of us store energy at home. When you buy a modern battery backup system, what you're actually buying is a very expensive chemical solution to a very simple physical problem. Lithium cells degrade, they heat up, they require replacement every few years. The full installation of a leading home battery system regularly runs past $15,000 when you factor in the inverter, the wiring, and the labor. And every time that battery dies, you write another check. What if the entire framework was wrong from the start? What if storing energy as electricity in a chemical cell was never the smartest option for home use, just the most profitable one for the people selling it? There's a completely different way to store energy. It doesn't involve any chemistry at all. No lithium, no lead, no cobalt, no toxic materials. It doesn't degrade, it doesn't catch fire, and it doesn't need a software update. It stores energy the way the Earth itself stores it, as heat, locked inside a dense, insulated mass. Engineers call it thermal energy storage. Some old-timers just call it a heat battery, and the numbers behind it are almost embarrassing when you compare them side by side with what the major brands are selling you. Independent research comparing thermal storage with lithium-ion systems found that the cost per kilowatt-hour stored in a properly built thermal unit can be 30 times lower than in a chemical battery. Not 30%, 30 times. Think about that for a second. The same amount of usable energy stored for 30 times less money. The reason this hasn't become the standard is not because it doesn't work, it's because it doesn't require a recurring purchase. A well-built thermal storage unit just sits there and works year after year with zero replacement cost and zero maintenance cycle. There's no revenue model in that for anyone except you. Now here's where the story gets genuinely interesting. This concept wasn't discovered by a Silicon Valley startup or a university research lab with federal funding. It was quietly preserved by rural farming communities, specifically the Amish, who never stopped using it because they never had the option of plugging into the grid in the first place, while the rest of America was handed an electric meter and told to pay the bill every month. These communities kept developing and refining passive systems for storing heat from the sun, from a single wood fire, from the natural temperature of the earth below their feet. The knowledge didn't disappear. It just went somewhere the market couldn't follow. Let me describe what a working home thermal battery actually looks like, because this is the part that surprises people the most. It isn't exotic. There's no lab equipment involved. A complete unit can be built from materials you'll find at any hardware store or farm supply shop. At its most basic level, you're working with a heavily insulated container, think the size of a chest freezer, packed with a dense material that holds heat extremely well. One of the best performing options is a mix of silica sand and iron filings, which you can often get free from machine shops as floor sweepings. Iron conducts heat roughly 40 times more efficiently than limestone or rock, so the unit charges quickly and discharges steadily. 2 inches of polyiso cyanurate foam board on the exterior can extend heat retention from a couple of days to nearly a full week. A small copper coil runs through the interior and water circulates through it, driven by a 12-volt pump powered by a single small solar panel. That circulating water can heat your domestic supply, feed radiant floor tubing, or simply release warmth into a room. The whole unit, when fully charged by a wood stove or a solar thermal collector, can hold the equivalent of over 25 kilowatt hours of usable thermal energy. The most talked about home battery on the market today holds around 13, and this one can be built for under $300 in materials. Here's what I want you to think about. A DOE technical report published in 1979 concluded that a properly designed home thermal system could eliminate up to 70% of a household's grid electricity demand for heating, water, and cooling. 70%. That paper was archived and never made it into a single utility company brochure. A few years later, the federal research budget for passive thermal systems was slashed by more than half, while billions in subsidies quietly moved toward electrochemical storage research. By the time the 1980s ended, an entire generation of builders, plumbers, and independent tinkerers who had learned this craft were out of work or had moved on. The knowledge didn't get banned, It just got starved of oxygen until most people forgot it existed. The code that governs home building in most states today was shaped heavily by industry groups representing mechanical equipment manufacturers. That code assigns credit for expensive heat pumps and electrical systems. It assigns zero credit for passive thermal mass walls or heat storage beds, even when those passive systems demonstrably outperform the equipment on long-term cost. The result is that your contractor has never been trained to build one, your home inspector doesn't know what to look for, and your energy auditor isn't measuring the right things. The system isn't conspiring against you. It's just structured in a way that makes independence invisible. But here's the important part. And this is where I want you to actually lean in. The code governs new construction. It governs permitted renovations. It does not govern what you do inside your own walls, in your own basement, or in your backyard. An interior thermal mass modification is legally furniture with a heat source. A sand-filled storage unit in a basement corner doesn't need a permit. The same communities that preserved this knowledge never pulled permits either. They just kept building what worked, and they passed it down hand to hand, generation to generation, in farm newsletters and plain community publications that never made it to the average American bookshelf. If you have a house built before 1980, you actually have a head start that new construction buyers would pay serious money to have. Older homes have real mass, thick plaster, brick, stone, heavy wood framing. That mass is the most expensive ingredient in a thermal battery system, and it's already built into your walls. A south-facing interior wall in a pre-1980 home can be converted into a passive thermal collection and storage unit for well under $600 using a dark metal backing, a clear polycarbonate panel, a small air gap, and a tiny fan powered by a single solar panel. A Pennsylvania State University field study from 1981 found this configuration reduced winter heating fuel consumption in older farmhouses by between 30 and 44%. One person, one Saturday. No contractor invoice, no permit. This is what I want you to sit with tonight. The average American household has spent tens of thousands of dollars on utility bills over the past decade. The average Amish farmstead in Lancaster County has not. That gap isn't explained by lifestyle differences alone. It's explained by a fundamental difference in how they think about energy. Not as a service to subscribe to, but as a physical resource to capture, store, and manage on their own terms. Every dollar you spend heating a house you don't own the energy system for is a dollar that proves someone else's point. The knowledge to change that has existed for over 100 years. It just wasn't profitable to hand it to you. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a comment below and tell me two things, roughly when your home was built, and which direction your largest wall faces. That's all. Because those two pieces of information tell me almost everything I need to know about which version of this system makes the most sense for your specific situation, and I do read and respond to comments on this channel. If this video opened something up for you, if it changed the way you're thinking about your house, your bills, or the systems you've quietly accepted, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because it helps the channel, although it does, but because this kind of information only spreads when people who care pass it along. The next video I'm putting out covers a technique for keeping food cold for months with no electricity, using a material most American households throw away every week. The principle behind it dates back nearly 2 centuries, and it's even simpler than what we covered today. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And tonight, before you go to bed, walk through your own house. Put your hand on the south-facing wall. Stand in the basement. Look at what's already there. You might be sitting on the most valuable energy asset you own, and nobody ever told you.